Hello, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter with my friend Lorraine. We're bringing you Ask a Crafter. Should we redo that or should we keep it in? I don't know. Here, you're getting out of frame. I need to turn that. There we go. All right, we're cooking with fire now, people. I'm going to start the show today by reading off a few comments that came in because I thought they were pretty insightful from the viewers. The first one comes from Valerie. She says, "Hi, Lindsay. Thanks, Lorraine, for helping out. This is a comment for one of the last questions regarding alternatives for Swarovski crystals." Oh, another opportunity to say Swarovski. Yes. I bought a pack with the real deal at Joann's, the hot fix kind. I was in love, but the price, yikes. Another YouTuber, Cindy Lou Who, recommended eBay seller YW Market. I gave it a shot. I've ordered over 30 items and been extremely happy with all my purchases. I've ordered flatback hot fix, so on, and pointed bottoms and other miscellaneous crystals. And they do come from China, so they take a couple of weeks, she said, but she can't beat the price. She said she wasn't sure if it was actual Swarovski, but if it's not, she can't tell. So that was YW Market if you're looking for the crystals on eBay. Do you ever buy from eBay?
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had good luck. I collect my Christmas tree pins.
Oh, nice. Yes, nice.
On eBay.
Gentle Ocean Wind says, "Don't change a thing. You're perfect as you. Also, I'd like a room tour better than a candy store." I have 2 craft room tours on my YouTube channel. If you just click on my name, The Frugal Crafter, right while you're watching this video, if you're on YouTube, you can do that. It'll bring you right to my channel. It's under the popular uploads playlist, and you'll see the one that I uploaded 3 years ago and the one I uploaded earlier this year. And I probably do another one in January after I've gotten rid of all the stuff I've made for craft fairs and I've gotten in new Christmas goodies. So, yeah, January. It hasn't changed enough to bother doing it again. Lindy Lee wanted to see Lorraine on the film today, and she is, so yay! Thank you guys for pestering her because she agreed to it. Scrapbooking with Me says, "I'm the owner of Scrapbooking with Me Boutique on Facebook. I do carry ATG tape refills for $2.75 each and would be happy for any of your subbies to come and join our group." So thank you, Edith. So if you want to find that, if you go to last week's video, the link is on that video description. Alprin79 says, "The Stampin' Up! Atomizer I showed you last week is retired and no longer available. They've retired it before and brought it back, so maybe if you comment to your Stampin' Up! Lady that you want the atomizer again, they may bring it back, or you can try blendy pens or blow pens right at your craft store." Ariane McC says, "You can make your own distress paint by using student acrylic paint. And you use 2 parts acrylic paint to 1 part acrylic medium from dickblick.com. It's probably like a gel medium to dilute, so it doesn't dilute the pigment. And then she also added that you add a little bit of distilled water to taste. She says don't really taste it, but just to kind of get the consistency you want. And she said she made herself 48 2-ounce bottles with the same tops as the ones from Ranger for about $12, accounting all the materials." Ariana, if you could post what you used for the tops, if you had screw-on tops that you just put on the tubes or what, that'd be great. I did find them at Oriental Trading, but they were more than $12 for 48. I think you got 12 for well, actually, it'd be all right. I think that maybe the Oriental Trading, they do have that. I think they're about 12 bottles for $6. And Annie Elder says she wanted to share her homemade texture paste recipe, and this, I haven't heard of this. This is different. 1/2 cup white gesso, 1/2 cup baby talcum powder, and 1/4 cup cheap white children's glue. Mix it together. You can add more powder or more water depending on the texture consistency that you want. And the last comment is from Robin Schaefer. She says, for any UK viewers, there's a show called Create and Craft. It's a UK shopping channel for crafters, and you can get your good old American wax paper right there. All right. Lorraine, my coffee's on the other side of you. I'm just going to reach over and grab it, and you can start off with the first question.
That's your my coffee.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Very important if you drink black coffee or cream in your coffee.
It's soy milk, so half the time I am drinking black coffee.
Okay.
So,
Sue Cole says, "Hi, I've never been able to find the search box on your blog. Can you explain where it's located?"
Yes, if you go to my blog, it's the link is under the video. You will find it right underneath the header. This is a Frugal Crafter's weblog. There's a little search box right under there, and you could type in what you're looking for, and it will get you there.
Terry Glenn says, Lindsay, can you please tell me if there's an easy way to cut heavy chipboard? I have the guillotine, sorry for the spelling error, to cut straight lines, but I'm wondering if there are any tricks to cutting curves in heavy chipboard. Thanks, Terry.
Yes, the best trick that I know to cut a really smooth line is to do it in 2 passes. Your first time, like maybe trace a template, and you want to use an X-Acto knife. And I got one, probably have one right around here somewhere. You know, just the silver craft. Ah, good, Lorraine, thank you. X-Acto knife. So draw or trace your template, then cut it over, just kind of scribe the line, score it. Then when you go back in, you put more pressure, you'll get a nice clean cut. With chipboard, mat board. Chipboard should go in 2 passes. Mat board will take probably 3, but that will work for you. That'll give you a nice smooth cut.
Thank you. Krista Dorset asks, can I use the acrylic paint in the bottles that you buy for like $1 or $2 for watercolor painting? Would I be able to just mix the paint with a little bit of water? Or should I use the acrylic paint in tubes found in the art section at my local big box craft store? By the way, I love the picture you painted with a birch tree. I'm from Wisconsin, living in South Dakota, and miss the birch trees.
Oh, thank you very much. You can get a watercolor effect with acrylic paint. You won't be able to lift it up once it's dry like you can with watercolor, because acrylic paint goes through a chemical change and it's no longer resoluble once it's dried. But yes, I would get a if you save a styrofoam container from takeout or a meat tray or something, wash it, squirt out just a tiny little drop of your craft acrylic paints. Actually, the kind of the bottles, the cheaper ones, will work a little easier for this. And I would spritz it with a little spray bottle of water, and then also spritz on the palette itself, so you have little kind of droplets of water, and then just pull the paint over into the tray, into the droplets, until you get the consistency you want, and you'll be all set. You can use that in place of watercolor paint. You know, you can't re-wet it and use it again, so just squirt out a little bit at a time, but you can get a similar effect, definitely. Still, you know, wet your paper first. If you're doing a wet to wet technique, do all the techniques the same. You have to make sure you wash your brushes with soap and water when you're done, though, because acrylic paint is almost like a plastic once it dries. So as long as you take care of your brushes and you don't plan on keeping that paint after your painting session, you're fine to try that. Absolutely.
Okay, Maddie Tremblay says, thank you, Lindsay, for sharing your expertise with us. What I want to explore is gouache?
Gouache.
Gouache. What is it? How to use it? How to say it? What makes it different? How makes it different than watercolor?
Okay, gouache is the only difference between gouache and watercolor is gouache is opaque. Gouache has opaque pigments or precipitated chalk added to it to make it opaque. So paintings done in gouache, I would liken, if you compare watercolor pencils to watercolor, that's kind of you get the same look. Gouache is more like watercolor crayons. Will give you that kind of look. It's opaque. It's a velvety matte finish. It looks similar to acrylics, but you can re-wet it and go back in and lift and move it around afterwards. You can do the same exact techniques as you do in watercolor, with the addition that you can paint over things. So, see if you're painting a chickadee. You wouldn't have to keep the cap white, the part around the eyes white. You could go back in with your white gouache and paint it. And personally, I like to use gouache to make my own pigment inks. And I have a video of that on YouTube. If you just search how to make ink or how to make pigment ink on my YouTube channel in a little magnifying glass search box, or from my blog, you'll find that video and recipe.
Linda Lee has an ink question. I watched the spray inks and daubers video and would like to try the Blick liquid watercolors on papers that I will use as collage elements, but my concern is the Blick page indicates that some of these inks fade, but they don't say which ones. Are these inks permanent when dry, and if I seal them, will they be light fast?
Light fast.
Oh. If I just got the pearl and gold, would there be a problem with fading? The Ask a Crafter is absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much. You'll have no problem with the pearl and gold because they get their colors from mica powder. So they're going to be mica no matter what. They're not going to fade. Some of the colors there, anytime you have a dye-based color, it can fade. Markers will fade. Your permanent markers will fade, your dye-based markers will fade, your regular watercolor markers will fade. So like, if you want collage elements to last, I would use artist quality watercolor paints. So you can get that transparency, but they're made with pigments, either organic pigments like mineral pigments, inorganic pigments, organic pigments such as plants and flowers, or inorganic pigments such as minerals like iron and cadmium, lapis lazuli, stuff like that, or synthetic pigments which are made in a lab, but they're man-made, but they're still a pigment as opposed to a dye, so they will be light fast. And on your artist grade acrylic tubes, they'll tell you how light fast. Is it going to last 50 years? Is it going to last 100 years? There'll be like usually a couple stars or the number 1, 2, 3. It'll tell you, and on the back it'll tell you the light fast rating of a product if they're artist quality. So for the colors, go with watercolor paints that are like artist quality, and use Blick for the mica colors. But I will say that I have painted with the liquid watercolors and hung them right up, and if you have like plexiglass as a covering, that's going to give you a lot of UV protection. So I haven't really noticed a problem with fading, but chances are it will fade after a while. In your art journal, not a problem. It's not going to be hung up in direct sunlight, but if it is a painting on the wall, you want to be aware of that.
Okay, Millie, Lyson or Ison?
I'd say Ison, I think.
Ison?
Mm-hmm.
She has 2 questions. Tube, watercolor, or pan? She's going to try and invest in a small set, so she'd like to know which.
I think that tube watercolor is a little bit more easier to find and economical. Actually, it's a lot easier to find, and it's also economical. But if you find a set that you really think is cute, it's got the palette and everything, with pans, you can refill them with tube watercolor. So you could start off with a pan set and just refill it. I'll show you my the one I've been using for the tutorials. It's not the most expensive set, and it's actually Cotman. It's Winsor & Newton Cotman paint, so it's more of a student grade. But it's got this great palette, so it's really handy for my watercolor tutorials. And as I run out of color, you can see with my mauve here, I've just taken the pan and refilled it with my tube color. So it's personal preference. I'd say if you find a really cute palette that you love that has the pans, just refill it with your tube color. But if you're gonna buy a big palette to fill up yourself, I would go with the tubes. They're just a little bit cheaper, and you can reconstitute them with water, and it works great.
Also, she wants to know if you can figure out how to make one of those soft sticks to use with pan pastels or chalk.
Oh, okay, the soft sticks. I used them in a video yesterday. They're like these little, so you want to feel that? They almost feel like chamois.
Oh.
They're very soft foam applicators, and they're a hydrophobic foam, which means that they don't absorb your medium, so you can use these with acrylics, watercolors, whatever. They won't absorb the color. It keeps it on the edge so you can kind of push it around. To make your own, I would recommend getting like a soft kind of chamois microfiber cloth, maybe at the dollar store, and getting some little palette knives and just sewing them to fit. That said, these aren't expensive. I think the set of the 4 applicators with the little refill tabs were less than $10 at, I think, dickblick.com. I should really I'm always promoting Dick Blick. I should get I should be a salesperson. Jeez. Get an affiliate account or something. But they're not expensive, and you can buy the refills, and they do last quite a while. Or you could just buy some makeup applicators and use those for your chalk. They'll work just fine because that's what they're designed for. They're designed to put chalk on your face. They'll put chalk on your paper just fine. Dollar store, people.
Violet asks 2 questions. The first is, what is the very best way to remove rubber stamps from the wood that will leave the cushion part on? I have a lot of large rubber stamps that take up so much room. I would love to get them off the wood and into binders. Thanks.
Heat gun. Take a heat gun and just kind of start heating it up on the edge of your stamp, and then you're going to peel back. Let me go grab a stamp to show you. I've done this with my background stamps before because they've been they haven't stamped very well, so I've taken them off the mount. But you want to use your heat gun or a hairdryer if you don't have one. That might be hot enough. Heat up right along one edge and then start peeling it back. Peel, but get your fingernails like under the cushion, not under the red part, so that you can keep that all in one piece. When you take it off, it will still be tacky, and you'll be able to slap that right on your acrylic block and then peel it back off, and even stick it back on your wood block if you want to for organization. You spend so much money on these wood stamps, it's a shame to just toss the block. So that's what I do when I want to remove them, because sometimes they don't stamp right and you need to, get some use out of them. So.
And the other question is, you mentioned ink refresher in today's video. What is that, and do you make your own?
I do make my own. Ink refresher is, so say you have an ink pad and you've re-inked it and you know it's got plenty of pigment in there, but you just can't get it to, it just feeling dry. I have this problem with my Stampin' Up! Basic Black ink pad. I re-ink it quite a bit, and I could tell because if you look at the edge of an ink pad, and I know I've got one that's got that needs to be re-inked. I'll show you a couple so you can see one that needs to be re-inked and one that doesn't. Hopefully here. Yeah, this one is pretty inky. It's pretty fresh, and it's the side of the ink pad is dark just like the top. But if you get one, so that's inky. Now this one, the sides are getting lighter. If you can pick that up on the camera, that shows you that it needs to be re-inked. You can't go by the color of the felt on top because that will deceive you. So for instance, like this, you got ink in there. Maybe it's just a little dry. I use a mixture of, I take like a 4-ounce bottle and I fill it 3/4 of the way with like distilled water. If you don't have distilled water, boil some water. You just want to make sure there's nothing funky in there that's going to make your ink pad get moldy after you close it and you leave it on a dark shelf. And then you want to put, I would say like a 1/2 teaspoon of glycerin. And that way when you spray your ink, you shake it up and you spray your ink pad, you're getting the ink wetter, but you're not making it runny. The glycerin kind of helps moisturize it, but doesn't water it down too much. Even though you're not using that much on there, that will kind of seal in some of the moisture on your ink pad and help bring it back to life. That's what I use. There are commercial ink refreshers you can buy. Ranger makes one. I reckon it's probably about the same thing, but I can't vouch for that because I have no idea what they put in their ink refresher. But I've used that. It works for me, and my ink is still, I use it on that Stampin' Up! Black all the time, and it's still waterproof after it dries. So I haven't done anything to alter its properties at all. So that's what I do. Works for me.
Okay. Christine of Style Harmony Decoration asks, I've tried to color my stamps with children's markers and alcohol-based markers, but they don't stamp as well as yours, even after breathing on them as you do. You talk about water markers. Does it have to be mentioned on the box, or do you have any brand to recommend?
Most markers, unless they say permanent, are water-based markers. Sometimes kids' markers have more water in them, so they bead up when you kind of color them on the back of the rubber stamp. We're talking like you take your stamp, you use your marker, you color on the rubber, and then you stamp it down. I never use alcohol-based markers, permanent markers, because you have to work really quick, and alcohol dries out your stamp. So I don't use that. I just I don't want to dry out and shorten the life of my stamp. Usually the markers that I use are brush type alcohol markers. I'll grab a handful here so you can see. And I'll show you this kind too. There's all kinds of different brands. They generally are double-ended, and one end would have a brush tip. I really like these by Memento. They're really juicy and they're not very expensive. In the States, we can get a 4-pack on sale for $5 or $6 at a big box store like Joann's when they're on sale. I also like the Tombow because they seem to, this is a Tombow, they seem to last really well. If you're a scrapbooker though, I'd recommend the Memento because they have a hard tip for journaling. The smaller tip on the Memento are more of a bullet style tip. These are the Stampers Big Brush pens. They hold a lot of ink. They're good for coloring on the rubber, but that's about all they're good for because the tips wear down really easily on those, and they're expensive. They're like $6 a marker. I think it's a ripoff, but these were sent to me by the company. I appreciate it very much, but gotta be honest. I'm sorry. Yes, when companies send me stuff, it doesn't mean that I'm going to favor their product. I'm still gonna be honest. Not that I don't want companies to send me stuff. It's awesome. I love it, but yeah, I would recommend Memento or Tombow, and get ones with the brush ends. They're designed for stampers. They're designed to be used like this. They'll have the right consistency of ink for you.
Okay, Yvette Acosta says, thank you for all your videos. Love the information and tips. My question is about Aleene's Tack It Over and Over glue. I've made the glue dots, but I'm not sure if I can use them for scrapbooking. Have you had a problem with the dots turning yellow or discoloring whatever you use on it? Oh, and you speak very fast, but I understand you, and I just feel like I need to hurry up whenever I listen to you, and I mean this in a good way.
Get on the ball, people! Come on, crafters! Okay, no, I haven't had a problem with any of the Aleene's Tack It Over and Over dots yellowing. The only thing I have noticed, I had a mini book that I made a few years ago, and it was one of those clear acrylic albums, mini albums, and I did notice some of the embellishments coming off that were stuck to the clear pages. The glue dots would stay stuck to the chipboard, but they were coming off of the on the plastic pages. So I think it was probably the weight of the chipboard and the fact that the acrylic pages are slick. So I think as long as it's paper to paper or chipboard to paper, you're going to be fine. No yellowing that I can see.
Okay, the little crafter asks, what else can you use the blend pens for?
You can use them for coloring. You can use them for like resist. I did a video the other day where I took a piece of wax paper and set it down on a piece of watercolor paper and drew, and then took it off, and you could color over that and you'd have your wax picture. You could touch two ends together and then color with like a gradiated wash. There's lots you can do, and they're quite affordable. You know, definitely with Christmas rolling around, you can ask for a big package of those, and they come with a little spritzer, so you can, you know, do the blow pen and airbrush techniques as well.
Gammy Girl is a new subscriber to your channel.
Thank you.
Loves
my
your
subbies.
video and your personality. You're very inspiring. Her first question is, I have two questions. Do you have any advice on how to deal with creativity blocks and or self-doubt in one's work? I struggle with both. I get stuck a lot from overthinking too much when creating.
That is such a common problem that people have.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to step back there so you'll be in the nice bright light there. Let me see your beautiful shining face. I see what time we're at too. Oh, look at that. We started a new file. Somebody's question probably got cut off there. Creativity block. Yeah, everybody has creativity block. When I am feeling just, and it always happens when my kids have like an extra long day at school and activities, and I have like hours and hours ahead of me to create, and then it's like, can't think of anything, you know? And so I find that I start cleaning. And so I start cleaning and organizing my craft space, and I always find something that I'd rather be doing than cleaning and organizing my craft space. So that's kind of how I deal with creativity block. Also, I'll tear, like, on my bulletin board, I tear things out of magazines. Like, for instance, I saw this in a Fire Mountain Gems catalog. It was just these cute earrings that were made kind of like little vials of beads, and I just thought, that's cute. I could like cut up a glow stick or something like that and make those. So, you know, if I see an idea, I'll grab it and stick it on my bulletin board, so that when I have a moment, I don't have anything that I'm planning on doing. I have a UFO drawer, which is all my unfinished objects that I kind of lost my oomph on. I can open that up and just do my mindless stuff until something better comes along that I think of to do. As far as the perfectionism, that just is going to come with practice. The more you do, the more confident you're going to get, and you're not going to worry about what anybody says or thinks about your artwork. You know, you could always just watch a tutorial and try it. Maybe that will get you past that stumbling block. But, you know, the thing you have to realize that you're creating, the only person that really cares about how it turns out is you. You're the only person you have to make happy. If you don't like it, nobody has to see it. It's not like you're on stage performing something that's just going to be out there once you do it. You have the choice after you've made it, whether you're going to show somebody or whether you're going to put it in your journal or you're going to throw it away. So don't worry about what anybody else thinks. You should just enjoy the process, and, you know, don't worry about it. You just have to do it.
Just do it. How do you frame artwork done in pastels? Thank you so much for all the time and effort that you put into teaching and helping others.
You're welcome. Pastels are a little tricky. They are work on paper, so they need to be framed under glass. You have to make sure that they're under glass and not under an acrylic or a plexiglass or a styrene or any plastic, because plastic have a charge to them, and they will grab the pastel dust, and it will attract to the plexiglass, and you'll get all these little specks all over the plexiglass because it's just like a magnetic attraction there. So the first thing is it needs to be under glass. It needs to have a mat, because you can't have that pastel pressed up against the glass, or it's going to smear. So you need to have a mat. You need a space between the mat and the artwork, so that when you're moving this painting around after you framed it, if it gets bumped and some dust falls, it doesn't dirty the bevel edge of your mat. It will fall behind the mat. So you have the artwork. You have a spacer, which is, I just use a strip of scrap of leftover mat board. I put it on all four sides. Then you've got your mat, then you've got your real glass, and then your frame. And after you're done framing it, cover the back with some brown paper to make a dust seal, and that will keep anything from getting in or coming out. And for some reason, I don't know, have you ever seen a picture framed with like a little bug in it? Little bugs going in? Because you don't have a dust seal. You need a dust seal, because they will get in there and they will love that watercolor paper or that pastel paper or whatever. I know, it's gross. But yeah, that's how you do it.
Giggles Barbs, I'm so happy Ask a Crafter's back. Right before your break, I had asked about uses for all those cool Mono prints made with the jelly print method. Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, well, you can use them to make cards. You can use them for scrapbooking papers. You can use them for gift wrap. You can actually print on fabric and sew with the fabric. You can scan them. I scanned my favorites in so that I can print them off and use them whenever I want. So then I didn't feel like I had to wait for the perfect project to use my my papers. You can use them to decoupage. Like you could cover a cigar box with them. You could cover soup cans. You can use them for anything you use paper for, really. They actually have a nice texture and they're really quite strong because of the layers of acrylic paint. They're a little more durable than regular paper. So you could, anything you would use paper for. You could take a clock and take it apart and put the jelly print, you know, cut it so it's the same size as your clock and put it in there and have a really funky art piece. Anything you want, anything you can do with paper, you can do with a jelly print.
Style and Harmony Decoration asks, would it be possible for you to show how to make a faux wood background for cards?
I have a tutorial. It is if you search Boy Scout on my YouTube channel, you'll see a scrapbook page that I did for the Blue and Gold banquet for Boy Scouts, and there is a faux wood frame, and I show you all the steps to create out of cream cardstock the faux wood effect.
Bubbly0409 asked, can you explain or do a tutorial about designing digital stamps and or cut files for use with Sure Cuts a Lot? Please and thank you. Love all that you do.
All right, there again, I'm going to direct you to my blog because I have tutorials with step-by-step screenshots so you can see exactly what the screen should look like as you're converting files to SVG, so you can cut them with your Sure Cuts a Lot software. I will try to remember to put a couple direct links right under the video so you can click on that and get right to the exact blog post. But if not, just go to my blog and search SVG tutorial or Sure Cuts a Lot tutorial or how to convert a file. So if you're just looking for like a picture, you can find any JPEG that's a nice crisp, like a coloring book page works good, or clip art works good, something that's, you know, black and white, and you can bring it into your program, and I have all the steps on my blog to convert those over. As far as drawing them, what I do is I will sketch with, if I'm like going to make a digital stamp, I'll sketch on paper with a black pen, then I'll scan it into my computer, and I'll open it up in a free program called Inkscape, and then I will do what's called a trace, and then I trace it, and it turns it into a digital image as opposed to an analog image. I delete all the old stuff, and then I've got just the black dark lines and none of the, you know, background, you know, hen scratches or anything. So that's how I do the digital stamps. And you do the same thing for creating a cut file.
Carrie King says, I'm enjoying this Ask a Crafter series and learning a lot. My question is, I'm trying to figure out how best and most reasonably priced way to make pendants for necklaces with a phrase written or inscribed on or in it. I think engraved metal will be too expensive. I thought about it in a frame or in resin, but I have no experience with either. I will be doing 7 of them. Do you have any ideas? Thanks a lot.
Yes, it's a great product. I picked it up at the Michaels in West Springfield this year when we were at the stamp show. And they're called Podgeable blanks, and they're made by Mod Podge. And I think I can grab a couple. I think I got them right in here somewhere. I had them out. I was using them for something. Maybe they're over here. I'm so prepared. I could have done this beforehand. Maybe they're in here. I think so. Yeah. So you get these little frames. They have silver and copper, or antique gold. I guess that's antique gold. And so you can trim your paper to fit this. Put a layer of Mod Podge in. Put your paper in. You can collage in it or whatever, and then coat it with a coat of Mod Podge and let it dry. Or you could use crystal accents, glossy accents, diamond glaze, whatever you have. They have different sizes. You get like a dozen in a package, and I'm thinking it was just like $4 or something, or maybe 7 at the most. I don't know. It wasn't much. You know, all these different sizes, and there's even a ring. Here's one of the rings. It might be 2 rings. I think they've got both finishes represented. But they're called Podgeable blanks, and they're made by Mod Podge, and you would find them in your craft store where Mod Podge is sold, or look for it online.
Very good. Barbara Politano says, "Hi, Lindsay. Love your videos and your bright, shiny personality. I've noticed in your videos that even after getting messy with inks and paints, your hands are always so clean. What do you use to get the ink and paint stains off your hands?"
Shampoo probably works better than anything. I don't know if it's the conditioning in it or whatnot that releases it. I usually have a lotion on my hands too, so I think that kind of makes a barrier. There's a great lotion. It's actually at the Dollar Tree, and it's called Creamy Petroleum Jelly. And it's really, because my kids have sensitive skin, and the soap at school is really harsh. Yeah. So I have them take that to school and use that as a lotion because it just, the skin just cracks with those disinfecting soaps that they use there. But it's called Creamy Petroleum Jelly, and since I usually have that on my hands, I think that's why the ink comes off pretty easily. But as you go, you get a little bit better at handling your tools so you don't get completely messy. And if that doesn't work, you can always get like it's designed for men. It's that soap. It's got pumice in it. It smells like oranges. I think it's called like Gojo or something like that. It's usually sold in the automotive stores or in the hardware sections of your big stores like Walmart or Target or whatever. But it's got pumice in it, and it just kind of scrubs and sloughs off all the stains. It's meant for mechanics and things. So.
Okay. Chrisanna Fagan, I always loved your videos. Can you explain about the different weights of paper, such as 100 pound or 80 pound, and which would be the best for layering on greeting cards?
All right. Well, this is important because you don't want your cards to cost a lot to mail. If you go to like Joann's or AC Moore, you'll see those cheap packages of paper. They usually have like 5 different colors, and they go on sale for $2.50 a ream of like 50 sheets. Those are usually about 65 pounds. Those are good for layering, and they're not quite sturdy enough to make a good card base with. So save those for layering. Plus, you can always ink the edges of your matting to get it just the right color, because sometimes the colors, they don't have a large variety in those colors. Those are what I primarily use for layering. I like 110 pound for my card base, but I do notice there's a big difference between 110 pound from one brand versus 110 from another. For instance, Staples 110 brand is a lot thicker than Georgia Pacific's 110 brand. And Paper Tray Ink's 80 pound seems to be as thick as the 110 pound from Staples. It seems thicker than the Georgia Pacific. So it's kind of one of those things where you gotta feel the paper to be sure. And then again, I hate to waste my Paper Tray ink cardstock on layering because it's such a beautiful cardstock to color on. I generally use the Georgia Pacific 110 pound for card bases, and I wouldn't want to go any lighter than that. I think the Staples cardstock is still fairly affordable. It's $15 a 250 sheet ream, but it's quite a bit thicker. And ironically, the cards that come from the craft store, those are envelopes, but you get those cards, I think they're by like Nicole or something. They're so flimsy that they're hardly, look at that, they're really flimsy. I use them sometimes, like for Christmas cards, because, you know, you're making so many. The craft ones are better, but still, they're really almost too flimsy than what I want to use. So I would go with 110 pounds. Staples is fairly cheap, and you can get, quite a few card bases. But unfortunately, you kind of have to feel it because it doesn't seem like there's much consistency around cardstock like there's around watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is generally 140 pound or 300 pound, and you could feel the difference. 300 pound feels like cardboard, it's so thick. So yeah, feel it, but if you want just a safe bet, Staples 110 pound cardstock is a good base weight in there, and you can use 65 pound or whatever you want for layering because it's not supporting the card.
Okay, function of light. I have some color box petal points for pigment ink. Recently noticed that some of the foam is aging, have had them for years. I thought, what would Lindsay do? Instead of replacing the entire ink collection, I need to replace a few pieces of foam. Here's where I need help. Cut and dry foam is not sturdy or dense enough to be a new pad. Do you know what kind of foam I need to create the new base? Thank you so much.
Okay, well, we have gone back and forth a couple times on the YouTube channel. I've talked with her about her ink pad situation, and so the first thing I asked was, were the glue pads coming off the base? Because that happened to mine, and Gorilla Glue, a few drops of Gorilla Glue, adhered them back because it's designed to work on damp surfaces. That's not a problem. So I asked her if the pads were crumbling, because sometimes when you get pigment ink pads, they get hard and crumbly, especially the cheap ones. And she said they're not crumbly at all. So the first thing I would like you to try, since the pads are goner anyway if you don't get it fixed, is to take a shallow dish and put kind of equal parts glycerin and water in it, and just kind of set the ink pad down with a pad down, because I'll show you the petal points. I've got a couple over here. They're really great. They're quite a bargain as far as like getting 8 ink colors for like $16 or so. So the pad is crumbly. So I would set that just down in a lid, just a little margarine lid with the glycerin and the water in it, and leave it overnight, and then see if that softens it up. You can even put a couple drops of alcohol in there to break up that pigment, and that might bring some more life to it. But if it's still hard and not springy when you're done, go to the dollar store and get they're like the foam wedges that you have for makeup, like these, except they're not wedges. They're those are the wedges. They're actually discs, and they should be just big enough to cover one of those. So what you want to do is pull the old ink pad off and trace it onto that disc, and then dampen it, glue it with some Gorilla Glue, make sure it's completely glued down, and then cover it up, because that'll be about the same density. It might be a little softer, but it shouldn't be too soft for you. That should work. And it's cheap.
Best thing. 3 questions from Beth R. I have several ideas for rubber stamps. How can I sell them? What are the compensation rates? Sell them outright or commission on each sale? Who do I pitch to? I have put together a 10-page proposal for stamp series with stencils and dies. I can't find any info on going rates or how to price my ideas. Thanks, Lindsay.
Sure. Well, there's a couple different ways you can go. Furnace just kicked on, but I know you can hear me because the furnace always comes on. I should have put more wood in the fire upstairs. I forgot to do that. You got a wood stove going upstairs, but apparently I forgot to refill it. It's probably out now. Okay, so some companies do accept work from illustrators. I've designed stamps for a few different companies, the Rubber Cafe, Pink Persimmon, Artful Legacy, and you contact them and ask them if you can send them samples. Don't send your samples cold. They could be working on a similar stamp set at the same time, and then you could think they stole your idea. So just don't even send out your samples unless they want to see them. And then after they see them, they can say, yes, we're interested, or we're already working on something like that, or it's rarely they will take the samples just as you send them and want to make them stamps. There's usually a lot of back and forth, a lot of tweaking, a lot of work, because when a company produces stamps, there's a lot of cost involved, because they've got to eat that inventory if it doesn't sell. So they get the designs perfect and they send it off to the company to make the stamps, and they get them back, and then they need to sell the stamps. Some companies just want to pay you with a free stamp. I don't think that's fair. You know, it's up to you how badly you want to get your work out there. But generally, the stamp companies will offer you a per stamp price or a per set price if you have a bunch of stamps that go together. That will vary depending on what they're willing to pay, what your charge, what your reputation is in the market. Generally what I do nowadays is I license my work, so people can buy a license for any of the digital stamp sets that I offer, and then they can produce their own stamp sets from that, because that cuts down on my work quite a bit, because there's so much back and forth that you don't even think of. If you've got all these stamps designed and they say, well, I like that, but I really would like, you know, you'd add this and that and that, well then your stencil's not going to match, so then you got to change that. So it's a lot of work. You may want to go ahead and produce it yourself. But you know, just look at your stamps, look at companies, see what most looks like your work, or looks like it would fit in with your designs, and just send them an email and say, listen, I'm a stamp designer, would you be interested, or do you ever work with outside designers, or do you do all your work in-house? It's generally going to be your smaller stamp companies, not like your big ones that have store, you know, not like Inkadoo and Martha Stewart and those big brands. It would be more like your independent stamp companies that would be purchasing designs like that. So, you know, ask around, make sure they want to see your work before you send it to them, and because protect yourself as an artist. And if all else fails, you can always release them yourselves as digital stamps, or you can have a small production run made up and see if you can sell them yourself on eBay or Etsy or something like that. It's a lot of work, though. I will tell you, it's so much work.
And she also has a question again about the blow pens. You showed us several products. First, what was the black atomizer called, and where will I find it?
Oh, the black atomizer is a Stampin' Spritzer by Stampin' Up. Somebody left a comment that it is discontinued, but I bet if you go on eBay or Etsy, you can find one. You could use the, like I said, the blow pens and the blendy pens. You can use the little atomizers for those with their pens. But yeah, that was the Stampin' Spritzer. So look for it on, I bet you can find it on like eBay or something like that. It was about, I paid $12 new, so it should be right around there. Sometimes they like to jack up the price when something gets retired, but that's up to you how much you want to pay for that.
Now, what about that? Was that the little mouth atomizer you showed us? Or was that
Oh no, that was for the blow pens, the mouth atomizer.
Okay. AC Moore doesn't offer online sales, so where to find that one?
I think the company is like, oh shoot, what's it called? They're one of those as seen on TV companies, so I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find some. But wait, there's more incredible deal where you can get, everything for 3 payments of $19.95. I don't know, but search it. I'm sure you could find. Just search blow pens or sprays. There's many companies that sell them.
Okay, Lala Craft World says, first, I have no problem with your speed and accent, but I'm from Massachusetts, so. Love the dynamics with you and Lorraine. Lots of great info as always. Question, where do you get your stencils and steampunk? Can you show a video how you make some of your metal embellishments?
Yeah, I probably can. I don't think I've done that on a video. I generally will. It's got to be pretty easy in just a few steps. So basically what I do is I have a lot of mat board scraps since I do picture framing as well. And I just die cut mat scraps or chipboard, cereal boxes or whatever. Then I'll usually rub on some like metallic rub-ons or put on some metallic acrylic paint and then maybe scuff an ink pad over it after it's dry and then maybe run it through the embosser with a random embossing folder and there you have it. That's faux metal.
There you go. Linda Taylor, how do you make your own glitter glue, like the commercial brands? The commercial brands have gel and glitter glue stays mixed. I tried making my own glitter glue with Elmer's and Martha Stewart glues, and I have to stir the glitter glue every time I use it. Yuck.
I hate glitter glue. I have to say, I hate working with glitter glue. It always clogs. I always stick my hand in it before it's done. So what I've started using is clear nail polish. I just draw it on, because it comes with a brush in it, geez, for dollar store, $1, and I just draw it onto the clear nail polish, I sprinkle it, I wait 30 seconds, and it's done. So I don't even mess with glitter glue anymore. But if I was to, have some temporarily fit of insanity and decided I needed to make glitter glue, I would use, I would probably use Tombow Mono Glue, the clear stuff, and ultrafine glitter, like the Paper Mart Ultrafine or any ultrafine glitter. But nail polish, man, it's the only way to fly. Dry instantly, no sticking your hands in it, no getting anything else stuck to it.
Maureen Robertson says, all hail the dynamic duo.
Woo!
Great job, Lorraine. I hope you continue to read for Lindsay. I think it frees her up to squeeze even more info in. My question is, how do you unclog spritzer bottles? I've had to toss countless bottles, including brand names like Judkins and Ranger. After a few squirts of shimmer mist, they clog. Thanks.
I had the same problem, and I found what ruins them even worse is like super hot water. So if you soak them in like almost boiling water to kind of unclog them, that like melts parts and then they never work again. I found the little mini misters clog more often than the regular bottles, but I have not had any clog since I started using the Dick Blick shimmer watercolors for my, instead of Pearl X. It's just the right consistency, and it's $3.50. I'll grab a bottle so you can see how big the bottle is. Around here. I know I had it over here somewhere. I moved some of my drawers around, so I'm a little out of sorts. Ah, here we go. Right here. So you get the 8 ounces? Yeah, 8 ounces, and I mix it with water, and sometimes I mix it with some color. You definitely want to mix it with water. This is really strong stuff and it's quite thick. But this works great and it never clogs my bottles. And I don't know if this makes that much difference, but I started using the Paper Mart bottles and sprayers, and I haven't had any problem with that either. But you want to make sure when you're using your sprayer that the tube coming down the straw is not bent. You want to cut it at an angle and make sure it's just coming to like about 1/8 of an inch above your water, because if you have it at that angle, that tends to, I think because the stuff is going to settle and you have to shake it up before you use it. And if it's all settled in the bottom of that tube, then it's gonna have a big clog to start off. The first time you spray, you're gonna be pulling a big clog of mica. You could even go like 1/4 of an inch above the bottom, just to make sure you're not gonna have that sediment inside the tube. So that's great. You can use old like the travel size hairspray bottles work good too, because they're designed to have like a glue mixture going through. But yeah, this is, I recommend this. It's only $3.50. You could buy just the pearl and add it to whatever color you want. Add any coloring, a dye, any re-inker you want. I like the pearl and the gold because I'll use the gold with like reds and greens and colors that I want to warm up, and I'll use the pearl with like blues and purples and pinks and stuff that I want to keep neutral or cool in color. So that's what I do.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all the questions.
That's all. Did we really? We didn't skip any pages. That's all 5 pages. Wow, that's awesome. Well, I got the 5th page. So
You got that one.
all right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have a question, leave a comment below, either on this YouTube video or on my blog. Sometimes I get questions floating around in other posts and other videos, and I try to remember them and grab them and bring them, but I don't always. So if you want to make sure your question is answered by the dynamic duo, you gotta leave it here with this video. And if you have any questions, leave them. And until next time, happy crafting!
Happy crafting!